Ah, yes. Look who it is. Alongside Spread Astaire, I'm Holden, and it's the NFL Action Plan. Keg is out with his daughter right now. I guess field hockey. They're getting close. It's either the championship or the semifinals. So I said, come on, let's get Spread on the show today. Let's go talk some football. We're going to break down Thursday night football. We're going to break down the two big games this weekend, Steelers, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs. We're going to ask Spread how the hell he's doing. What's going on, buddy? NBA rundown host, Spread Astaire, NBA betting guru. He's on fire right now. Talk to me, Spread. What's happening, pal?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. The NBA is off to a hot start. We keep running up that unit count. So, of course, I'm excited about that. And, of course, I'm excited to talk to you about the NFL. Right before we went on, we were discussing, hey, there's some matchups we're not too excited about this weekend. But there's about 3 or 4 that are top-notch main event quality. So really looking forward to this weekend in the NFL too.
Yeah, 100%. Are you breaking down the Tyson-Paul fight, Spread? Do you have any interest in breaking that down?
No.
I mean, here's the deal. Mike Tyson's toughest son of a bitch out there. Jake Paul will never be as good a fighter as Mike Tyson was, but Mike Tyson's old, dude. I'm sorry. It's just at some point in time, your reflexes aren't as good. I get old man strength.
And we saw the Roy Jones fight. I mean, he could have knocked him out and he didn't do it. I mean, the whole thing is a work. I mean, if you want to bet on it, be my guest, but there's no way I'm getting involved in that.
Do you think I can't believe we're starting with this now. Thanks a lot, Jabroni.
Thanks, Clyde.
Do you think that it's fixed then? Like there's no way?
I don't know about fixed, but I mean, Tyson could have easily knocked out Roy Jones Jr. and he didn't. Now, whether or not they had decided upon that beforehand or he just didn't feel like doing it.
Yeah,
because they're friends, and I mean, I know he was really angry as a young man, but he's got a pretty good life now, probably, right? What's the old Marvin Hagler quote? It's hard to get up and run when you're sleeping in silk sheets.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this here, pal. By the way, you got an NBA winner for us tonight, or you know what we should do is just wait for the rundown. What time's the rundown?
Huh? So we're gonna go at 2:30 today. We're gonna go at 5:30.
5:30 Eastern. 2:30. Usually you do 5 though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we got our live NBA NHL show tonight, starting at 7:00. It'll be Fox and Zargo and myself. Fox will take care of the NBA. Zargo will take care of the NHL. I'll just sit there. Spread's been on the show a couple times, had really good shows. Shout out to Daniel Berry. What's up, buddy? Stenberg, good to see you. Yes. Keg's diet looks like it's working. He's saying you're skinnier than Keg, Spread. I know.
Yeah, that's probably true.
All right, let's get into Thursday night first. You got any questions about bets, life questions, or you just want to drop a bet that you already made in there? Hit us up in the chat. Like button will be wonderful. And we'll tell you how you can get a free week here in just a minute. But Thursday night football, the most embarrassing and greatest performance I've ever been to in an NFL game was what I called the Midnight Massacre. Michael Vick threw for like 500 yards against the then Washington Redskins at FedEx Field. I don't know how many people remember this, but he just went out through like 5 or 6 touchdowns, something like 500 yards. Albert Hainsworth literally did the worm during a play because he just didn't care about what was going on. So anytime the Washington-Philly game happens, that's the first thing that comes into my mind. But now you got a legitimate quarterback on the Washington side and Daniels. You got Hurts, who's on fire for the Eagles. The line, this hook makes it very interesting. Eagles 3.5-point favorites at home. The total in this game also 48.5. I think they set that one pretty well. But Spread, when you dig into this here, I just think what I've seen from Washington is they beat up on some pretty bad football teams, and they played a couple really good teams, and they lost. And they probably should have lost. Well, they should have lost that Bears game too if that idiot, speaking of dancing on the field, wasn't talking trash, and he would have been defending a Hail Mary. So I like the Eagles here. I don't know if I like the 3.5. Break it down for us, Spreader.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head with our concerns about this Washington team. Now, when you look at the records, they're similar, but Washington has had the benefit of that fourth-place schedule. To be fair, they looked pretty good against a solid Pittsburgh Steelers defense last Sunday. Couldn't get things done as the Steelers got the win in the end. However, you have to be excited about that if you are a Washington backer, and things couldn't have been any different for the Philadelphia Eagles, who were resting on the sideline about halfway through the third quarter as they played the joke of the franchise known as the Dallas Cowboys. So, that's also something to keep in mind. The Commanders fought tooth and nail right down to the last snap. And normally that's not that big a deal, but on a short week, I think we do have to factor it in here. Couple big people returning to that lineup or making their debut in that lineup. And I'm speaking of Brian Robinson Jr., who comes back. And I know that Austin Eckler is great. And if you had him in fantasy a couple years ago, he won your league for you. But he's simply not the same player. And one of the reasons he chose to go to Washington was he did not want that number one back workload. He knew that, he's a little bit past it. He needs his burst, and that's going to be better in limited carries. So Brian Robinson means a lot to that team. Also, Marshawn Lattimore should be making his debut here for the Commanders. They made the trade for him from the New Orleans Saints, and we've known Lattimore.
Do you want to know something that just happened, though? Literally, as you're talking, he's out.
He got rolled out?
Yeah, he's out.
Okay, so Brian Robinson Jr. will be returning to the lineup, Holden, and that will improve their offense, and we'll have to wait for the Lattimore debut. So just being an old guy, right, I lean towards taking the points in the division matchup. However, I would not be surprised if this is the game where, the fact that Washington's built up their net rating by defeating inferior competition kind of gets exposed here, and the Philadelphia Eagles could be the ones shining that light.
This comes down to me. Hurts has just been playing some amazing football. First of all, Jalen Hurts has, I don't want to say he's taken it to the next level because we've seen him do this, but it's been a while since we've seen him do what he's doing now. He's getting in the end zone every single game. He's thrown for a couple of touchdowns. I wouldn't say he's the most efficient quarterback out there, but he's been really good. And then on the other side of things, you do have a great young quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Again, now we're starting to talk about there's more game film on these kids. It didn't catch up with CJ Stroud last year. He doesn't look like the same guy this year. But as far as the quarterback situation goes, you can almost say it's a push, which is mind-blowing to me. Maybe a slight edge to Jalen Hurts, but defensively, I think, is where the issue is going to be. And I would not be surprised to see Saquon Barkley just eat again in this matchup. Eat.
Right. And there was a reason that they did make the trade for the aforementioned Marshawn Lattimore, and that's the weakness on the corner position. And A.J. Brown, boy, I mean, he turned Tannehill into a top 5 quarterback. So we've seen what he can do for a quarterback. And when you talk about Jalen Hurts returning to form, I don't think that A.J. Brown, him being back in the lineup and being 100%, those are completely related things. And it is a team sport, so we're not going to downgrade Jalen Hurts for not being good without his number one weapon. But that means a lot too. So, it almost correlated here, Holden. If you like the Commanders here, I think this game goes over because it means that Washington is able to score against that top-rated Philadelphia defense. If the Eagles cover, the game probably goes under because we're not seeing a lot of scoring from Washington. However, Washington has been one of the most efficient offenses this year. They make it into the red zone or red area, as me and Belichick like to call it, over 40% of their drives. That's the best in the NFL. So Washington's been able to move the ball. And if they're able to do that this week, I think they can keep it close and cover the spread.
Yeah. Again, I'll just go back to Washington, 6-1 against teams that are under 500. They really haven't faced the greatest competition. You did see the Steelers go in there, beat them last week. Very close game. Now they're going on a road, divisional game. And I'm going to get back to Hurts because it took me a second to find his numbers here. 72% completion percentage over this 5-game winning streak. Ridiculous. 126 passer rating, 5th in the NFL with 103.4 on the year. And then Jaden Daniels, who started off his season 82% completion rate, he's down to 68.7. He's starting to come back down to earth. So again, I think the Eagles win this game. The question is, does that hook scare me off? And right now it does. I could see 3.5. I don't like it, man. I don't like it at all. Look who's here. Look who's here. Tyler, talking about a game we're not even talking about. Good to see.
One other thing that we need to note, Holden, and I want to just pull this up to make sure. But even when Washington wasn't very good, they would usually keep things close and cover against the Eagles. For example, last year, the Eagles beat them by 3 and beat them by 7. And we knew that team is not nearly as close. So Washington has covered against the Eagles quite often, even with the inferior team to what they have now. We got to admit that ownership changes everything, and it's really too bad you can't fire NFL owners, because I can think about 10 franchises who would want to do it. But Washington, even when they were poor, they kept things close against the Eagles, so they've always played this team well.
All right, very good. If I have one bet I'm going to throw out there, actually, it's going to be Zach Ertz. Now, this will be like the second or third time he's had a revenge game against the Eagles, so it's nothing. It's not. If anybody tells you that it's actually a revenge game, give me a break at this point. But I like his over 3.5 receptions, minus 119 at Bet Rivers when I got it. He is their number 2 option in the passing game for Washington. He's got a 19% target share. He is Daniel's safety net, and the Eagles are giving up over 4 yards per game, 4 catches per game of the tight end position. So I'm going to go over on the receptions. I'm not going with the yards. This guy is 29th in yak. He does not get yards after the catch. He catches the ball and it gets tackled, and it's as simple as that. So that's where we are.
Jump in there on the idea of revenge games in the NFL. I think the only reason that works in the NBA is these guys half-ass it so often in the NBA. So when you get 100% effort, it's something to take note of. That doesn't happen in the NFL, and that's why it's the most popular sport. These guys go out and give it their all. I mean, I think I can think of the games which teams quit on the top of my head, where in the NBA you see it all the time. So I don't buy into revenge narratives as much in the NFL. And we even saw it with a former Philadelphia Eagle who had a chance to break a record against his old team and said, nah, let my teammates go ahead and take care of it. I'm chilling over here on the bench.
Yeah, against the Giants. Yeah, he didn't mind. What up, Card Addict? Good to see you, pal. Skips over the Eagles comments to go back to a Steelers comment. It's the first one that caught my eye, Tyler. Eagles quietly become a top 5 team again. Agreed. Now, in the NFC, because this is a 5-game win streak, they look great. And maybe they've done it in spite of Nick Sirianni. Whatever it is, this team is playing really good football right now. Now, if you were to ask me, who do you think is going to end up making a deeper run in the playoffs, the Niners or the Eagles? I'd probably go with the Eagles right now. But in the NFC spread, like Detroit's better than them. And then who? Seriously, who's better than the Eagles at this point? 7-2. The Falcons aren't. The Cardinals aren't. The Vikings, I don't think they are. Maybe the Commanders will be if they beat the Eagles here. Not the Packers.
You don't think the Packers? That was the one I was going to bring up.
So?
I mean, I think you can make a good point that the Eagles are better, but we got to give the Packers credit for playing in the toughest division. And would it surprise you that much if Green Bay got a win over Philly? If they're not better, they're pretty even. I mean, I think if they were to play right now, the teams would be even, and whoever had the home field would be laying 2.5.
All right, buddy. Like button would be great. For those of you that are not subscribers, we've got a special offer for you. All you got to do is go to nukethehouse.com, sign up for any plan that we have, weekly, monthly, yearly. We're not going to charge you unless you want us to. Type in the code Nuke November, NUKE NOVEMBER. See up there, it says Nuke November. Nuke November, 1 week free trial. What do you get with that? You get all Kegs and everybody else's picks on the sheet. You get the NBA rundown anyways, but you get spreads picks behind the paywall. The 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock NFL slates behind the paywall. So a lot going on here at Nuke the House. NFL action plan. Let's continue with the Sunday 1 o'clock games. Now, I think that the Packers and the Bears would be a game to talk about, but it's not the game, is it? The game is the Ravens and the Steelers. And the Steelers have, I think, probably played above everybody's expectations at this point, right? They are in first place in their division. I'm correct with that when I say that, right? The Ravens are 7-3, and the Steelers are 7-2. Yeah,
Ravens are 7-3. Yeah.
And for everybody that was poo-pooing on Mike Tomlin when he went to Russell Wilson, it was the right move. You know, they're pushing the ball down the field. They can still run. For the Ravens, the fact that this team, they just couldn't get out of the gates right. They could not get out of their own way, losing their first couple of games, 7-3 now. The total in this game is between 48 and 48 and a half. Now, we know the Steelers defense is top-notch, creme de la creme, homie. But on the other side, you can't really say that about the Ravens. The Ravens do have the highest octane offense in the National Football League, and they are 3-point favorites on the road in Pittsburgh. What am I missing here? How am I going to back the Ravens in Pittsburgh when you're laying points? Talk to me, Spread. What's going on here? What am I missing?
I'm with you, Holden. To me, it's Steelers or pass, and I was surprised to see that total so high as well. So it's funny because we've always considered the Ravens to be this defense first, run first team, but that's not the case anymore. They still like to run the ball, but this is a high-powered offense, and if they're going to get wins, that's the way they're going to do it. However, you are facing a Steelers team that's going to be very familiar with them. They've game planned for this for a while, and they by far do have the better defense. What it's going to come down to me, Holden, is will the Ravens be able to stop the Steelers' running attack? If the Steelers are able to get some nice gains on first downs, get Russ in those easy situations, we know how he loves to throw those 50-50 balls to Pickens. Pickens seems to come down to every time. They're going to have a chance to make it. So if the Ravens want to find success here, they're going to have to make the Steelers team one-dimensional. If the Steelers are able to run the ball, I think they cover it easily. So most of all, I like the under in this game because I do lean towards the Steelers. But I know you guys are going to be live betting it, and I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on early on. How much success can the Steelers find on the ground? Because if they're able to be a well-balanced offensive attack, I think they can cover this.
Yeah, and Najee Harris has to play. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's not going to play, but he has to play. He's not practicing. But again, it's very early in the week, and I don't want to get too concerned about that. But you got two of the best head coaches in the league. And really, this rivalry is the bloodiest, nastiest rivalry in the NFL. You can talk about all the other rivalries that are out there. Like as far as bloodlust goes, these two teams just kill each other. Patrick Queen, former Steeler, wants to be a villain with the Ravens. He's probably going to get into it this week. I mean, it really is amazing how bloody this rivalry is. And I think that kind of adds a little more intrigue, which is why I'm more excited about this game than I am the Bills and the Chiefs.
Well, let's talk about the Bills and the Chiefs, Holden, because Bills laying 2.5 at home. Kansas City has yet to lose. And I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I'm sure you're going to hear 1 million facts about Patrick Mahomes' record as a dog against the spread so far. So I'm going to start. I'm going to ask. We're going to flip the script here, Holden. I'm asking you questions now.
Why?
Is Kansas City going to improve to 10-0? Because I think it's a tough game.
All right, let's discuss this then. Is Kansas City going to improve to 10-0? When you play one-score games every single freaking game, at some point in time, you're just not going to cover it. It's not going to happen, right? And they should have lost last week, but great teams make great plays. They blocked the field goal attempt, and they ended up winning that game. So you wanted some stats on Mahomes, though, didn't you? Is that something you were interested in?
Sure, let's do it.
I mean, he's been so good. Chiefs are 16-1-1 ATS, 15-3 outright as road dogs dating back to 2016. Mahomes is 11-1-1 against the spread as a dog, 10-3 straight up. Now, the question I got almost immediately when the line dropped, like, hey, how could the Chiefs be underdogs? These guys, they're undefeated. Nobody's beaten them yet. And I'm like, well, let's talk about what Keg always says. The home field used to be worth 3 points. For whatever reason, now it's worth about 2.5 points. So if these two teams met on a neutral field spread, what would it be? A push. There'd be a 5-point swing if this thing was in Kansas City because the Chiefs would be minus 2.5, right? So what we have here is a Chiefs defense that is really the number one reason for them being as good as they are. And I get it. Mahomes, the Spectre, there is Andy Reid too, but I think defensively is where the Chiefs have the advantage here. Offensively, this is more of a running team and Travis Kelce. It's a very concentrated offense. On the Bills side, Allen really ramping things up over his last 5 games. If he doesn't make mistakes, if they could continue to spread the field, get the ball downfield. Dalton Kincaid might not be available in this game, which is very concerning for me, though. Keon Coleman, I think, is already out. So that's two huge weapons. But, as far as the spread goes.
About huge.
Huh?
I don't know about huge.
Keon Coleman? Because now you could be without.
Both those guys have kind of had muted performance.
Coleman has been coming on big lately. Coleman has really been. I don't have his game log in front of me. I would say go look at his game log and see how important this kid has been to this offense recently. The only reason that I would take the Chiefs here is because you're giving me points. It's the only reason. And I tease it. I wouldn't even bet it. I just tease them up to 8.5 and forget about it.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And if you look at what you were talking about earlier, this 2.5 tells me that the sportsbooks have these two teams rated evenly. And hey, that's fine if we're just using the statistics and the performance this season. But what have we seen consistently in these close games? The Chiefs have the ability to get it done. And I think one of the reasons the Chiefs don't have that same offense is they're almost kind of cruising along, Holden. I'm old enough to remember the Bulls of the 1990s. And they didn't cover a lot of spreads. And you watched a lot of their games, and they're tied, or maybe they're down a couple points. And in about 5 minutes to go, they just raise their level of play. The other team can't get a bucket, and the Bulls escape with a win and not the cover. And that's what I see from the Chiefs, especially Patrick Mahomes on the first two downs. On the first two downs, he goes through his progressions. He makes the throw. There's no extending of any plays because he says, you know what? I don't need to take a hit right now. What's really important is that I'm healthy going into the playoffs. Then on third down, you see the Mahomes that we know and love. He's scrambling. He's moving in the pocket. He's buying time. He's making these more aggressive style throws. Potentially, that's why he's had a lot of interceptions this year. A lot of those come on third down too. But they're almost I don't want to say punting. That's the wrong term. But they're very safe on the first two downs, and they don't really get aggressive until third down a lot of the times. And I think that's muting their statistical offensive output, leading them to be undervalued. And people are, first of all, most of these games in the NFL are close games. I mean, yes, you get the Arizona Cardinals blowing out the Jets last week, which I just had to reference because I enjoyed it so much. However, look at the Steelers and the Commanders. They come down to one or two plays. And this is why we like the NFL so much. Because most of these games are close. And even if your team is poor, a lot of times they've got a chance to win towards the end of the game. So I think that sometimes we fail to account when we're building statistical models or statistical projections, just that clutch factor, the clutch gene, and the Chiefs have it. So I'm leaning towards the Chiefs.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can really quantify analytically with the clutch gene, right?
Right.
So just numbers, guys, will laugh.
Big argument over momentum. I think it exists. Other people don't, and you can't quantify it.
You'll have guys that would tell players that say that I'm in the zone, saying there is no such thing.
Right.
So you're not gonna explain that to them. By the way, here's an interesting note that has nothing to do with the game, but Mahomes and Kelsey have had their houses burglarized within the last month.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they live in the same, very close to each other, but that's kind of crazy. Both their places have been burglarized.
I mean, I guess you got a pretty good idea of when they're out of town, right?
Yeah. I guess that's a great point. It's like these dudes will be gone.
Yeah.
No question. Let's just go have a good time there. Yeah, no doubt about that. That was a great point there, Spread, that when these guys are going to be out of town. All right, we'll get to one or two more games before we get out of here, but like button would be great. We'd appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nuke the House. If you're watching on X, come on over to our YouTube channel, Nuke the House, and turn on your notifications so you know when we're on. Our next live game broadcast Thursday night. By the way, this is the first time I felt good in about a week, Spread. Just the strep, the flu, everything. Everything. It was the worst. Feeling great now, hanging out with you. Tomorrow night, I'll be broadcasting Thursday Night Football. Game we just broke down a few minutes ago. And then tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern time, NBA, NHL Live. We're going to live bet the NBA slate with Sean Fox and the NHL slate with JC Zargo. Although I haven't heard back from Zargo, but there's no reason why he wouldn't be there, right? There's no reason why he wouldn't be there. I'll ask you, is there another game that kind of stands out to you right now? For me, it's, what it's going to be for me. It's the Falcons and the Broncos. Broncos 2.5 point favorites at home. 44 and a half is the total. And I think more than anything, giving you a prediction, like this is going to tell you whether or not the Broncos are contenders or pretenders. They should have won in Kansas City. They didn't, though. 500 team, right? If they can take care of business against a good Falcons team at home, then I'm feeling really, really good about the Broncos' chances to get to the playoffs. Again, the spread is 2.5. I don't think this is probably going to be a live betting target for me, hoping that we could just get like a -10 money line as opposed to -10, -2.5. So this is really a referendum on who the Broncos are to me. Bo Nix, slowly but surely improving every single week, not making really stupid mistakes like he was, using his legs when he needs to. Kirk Cousins has gotten very comfortable in that offense. Mooney has been just super destructive. The one thing that you could say about the Broncos, though, is they got the best corner in the world in Patrick Surtain, and he's going to be able to take Drake London out of this game. So it's going to be imperative that Mooney and Pitts really step their game up, and even a Bijan running out of the backfield. But this Broncos defense, really, really special. And I think that they can take care of business this week. 2.5. Am I going to bet it now? No. Is it a live betting target? Absolutely. What do you think, spread?
Yeah, it's a referendum on both teams, Holden, because if the Falcons are going to be taken seriously, they're going to have to go outdoors and do something. They're coming off a loss, an embarrassing loss to their rival, the New Orleans Saints. You would have, everything was lined up there for them to really put a chokehold on that division, and they'd lose a game that they easily should have won. And one thing we've talked about the Falcons before, for as good as they are, and they have a great secondary, this team really struggles to get pressure on the quarterback. So let's see if Nix can take advantage of it here. You know, I see Tyler in the chat, and he's going to say that Nix only likes to check down. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to push it down the field this week because he should get more time in the pocket. So right now, Holden, though, I'm going to take the team that's used to being outside. I'm going to take the team that's used to being in altitude, the team coming off a tough loss. And, you know, I think Raheem Morris is doing fine there in Atlanta, but I think we got a better coaching staff too. When it comes down to this game for me, Atlanta's got the better offense. Denver's got the better defense. They're at home. Give me the better defense. I'll take the Broncos.
All right, you got a game here? You got a game that you want to discuss before we get out of here?
Yeah, we're not going to do Sunday Night Football. So
no.
Let me see. What's the other one I want your thoughts on? Let's talk about the Rams. New England. And I'll tell you what, Holden, I wrote it up for us over at Nuke the House, and I thought the Rams had a good chance to really say, hey, you know, we're here. We're a playoff team. We were right not to sell at the deadline, and, you know, we're a threat to beat anyone. That was a tough loss to Miami. Now they got to travel across country, take on a New England team who, hey, don't look now. They might have struck gold with that first-round pick. And I remember thinking at the beginning of the year, you know, New England's really smart. That offensive line is terrible. They're not going to let the kid get beat up. And then you hear there's almost a revolution in the locker room that Brissett was a starter, which indicated to me and other observers, this kid must be killing it at practice, right? Because if all the other players are saying, how come he's not out there? It's because they're practicing against him, and they know he's much tougher to stop than Brissett. So it seems like they have the real deal in Drake May, and he's going to have opportunity to show it, catching 4.5 at home. We talked about these games being a referendum. I think this is a referendum on both teams. Do the Rams really have a chance to make the playoff push, or is this kid Drake May for real? Because if he gets it done and gets another win, I mean, they looked pretty good against Chicago, but this is going to be a step up in class. I'm really curious to see how this game turns out. Wouldn't be surprised to see New England cover it here.
Yeah, I'm going to go against you on this, although it's not heavy. It's not enough conviction to go bet this, but it really has been impressive watching Drake May doing what he's doing without an offensive line. That offensive line is brutal, absolutely brutal. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. Second of all, that was an inexcusable loss by the Rams. Was it Monday Night Football? Is that it?
Monday Night Football. They had 5 field goals. I think the final score was 4-15. They couldn't get anything done in the red zone. And Miami, when I wrote this up, Holden, I talked about the Rams offensive lineman returning to the lineup. However, the center
hurt him.
Problems. they were getting beat off the line, and that was not something that I expected. And we just saw New England grow 9 sacks against the Bears. Now, I know the Bears don't have the best offensive line either, but they obviously have the ability to win in that pass rush as well, which is why I'm curious to see how New England does once again. Are the Bears just that bad? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. With it seemed like the team turning against Caleb Williams, the bad play doesn't really worry me, but if your teammates don't like you, hey, if you're a wide receiver or running back, that's fine. Just get the ball out. It doesn't matter who likes you. As a quarterback, it is a leadership position. So I'm really curious, and I think this is kind of a referendum on the Bears too, because if New England goes back to looking like one of the worst teams in the league, that's a really bad loss. If they're able to win or at least cover against the Rams, we know, hey, this New England team is pretty good.
Yeah, the one thing about the New England team too, and I'm glad you brought it up, like they've got that Christian Gonzalez, that kid, and there's a couple other guys in their secondary. They are really, really good young unit. So there's a lot of issues on that team. Belichick called them soft, things like that. May doesn't have an offensive line. He's Jalen Polk, Demario Douglas. These are this guys, weapons at this point. I don't think anybody could take Kupp and Puka out of a game, but the one thing people are overlooking is that the Patriots actually do have some pretty decent corner play. With that being said, I don't think the Patriots win this thing outright. The Rams had a hiccup.
4.5 though, Holden. That's
4.5's a lot of points, but this is in LA.
No, it's in New England. Isn't
in
it?
New England?
Yeah. Let me double check.
Right. You're right.
Because it's on the 10 a.m. slate for us.
Okay, there you go. You're right.
New England,
it's in New England. It's in New England.
That's why I was kind of interested.
Yeah, it's tough to take 4.5 on the road then with the Rams.
It's New England or pass. I mean, I wouldn't lay it.
Yeah.
And if I know you guys are gonna be live betting this one Sunday. Hey, maybe New England gets an early score and you can get the Rams at plus money on the money line. But I wouldn't be laying 4.5 with this team right now.
This might be like I always have multiple TVs up watching these games, but I might have just one dedicated to the Steelers and the Ravens and all the other games on other TVs. Like the big TV is going to have Steelers Ravens.
And that's fair enough. But like I said, I think this game really is going to show what really this New England team is. And like I said, it kind of ripples because they get blown out. It looks even worse in Chicago, right?
100%. Yeah. So again, if this New England defense could keep them in the game in New England, 4.5, 5 points is a lot for the Rams to cover. I just don't think they're as bad as what they showed.
And I also want to see how New England handles success.
Yeah.
That was their best performance of the year. Do they build on it? Or they keep it rolling? Or are they all patting themselves on the back and out partying in wherever you would party in New England?
Yeah. McVay, like this team doesn't have any wiggle room for him anymore. They just have to go on the run now or it's over. There's no excuses. They got the guys.
I don't think it was the door was slammed shut last week. And now they're 4-5.
Yeah, they're still in the playoff race, though.
They're still in the race, but they got some tough games coming up.
Yeah. Let me go look at the playoff picture, too, one more time before we get out of here. And again, like button would be wonderful. We do have our NBA NHL live show coming up tonight, 7 o'clock right here on the YouTube channel. It's for free. What time's NBA rundown coming up today?
We're going to do it 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific.
And usually it's not at that time, though, right?
Usually it's at 5 Eastern and 2 Pacific.
Okay. So here.
I'm going slow because I'm looking at these standings right now. So the Rams
is the major issue, though, for the Rams. Like if they were in the AFC, the Broncos are 5-5 and they have the last spot.
Right.
But they're in the NFC. The Commanders are 7-3 and the Packers are 6-3 and they're 2 full games back.
And San Francisco's 5-4 and they're starting to get healthy right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got all these probability things. If they lose, the Rams have a 6% chance of getting in. If they win, they get a 15% chance of getting in. It's definitely a long shot. Let's just put it that way. But you don't have to get into the wild card. The good news for the Rams is the Cardinals are 6-4. They can win this division.
That's true. That's true. The Cardinals have looked pretty good, though. As much as I like to downplay the Jets, that was a decisive victory, and I was really impressed with their defense. Yep. And if the defense is going to play like that, they're going to hold on to this lead, and we might actually see Kyler Murray's first playoff win. I mean, what if they match up there against who would they play right now? I think they would play the Vikings in the first round, and I know that Tyler would be all over the Arizona Cardinals if that matchup takes place.
Well, let me say this once again, though, in the West. So the Cardinals are on a bye at 6-4. The Niners have Seattle this week. They can get back in the lead, tied with the Cardinals at 5-4. And if the Rams win this game, they're one game out of a playoff spot. So
yeah, that's true.
NFC West is nuts, man. Hey, Spread, thanks for hanging out, buddy. Did a great job once again.
I mean, I think that we did a great show today, Holden. Your hair is looking great as usual, and I'm glad to see that you're feeling better.
Thank you. I appreciate. Yeah, it's finally nice to get out of bed.
As someone who's balding, I'm really jealous there at the.
All right. It's all right. Grow it out. Just have a comb over like Kev.
I think I'm going to have to do that. That's what.
All right, guys.
Kids think.
Like button would be great. Nuke November is the code if you want a free week. One free week on us. Hang out. And then I have a feeling you're going to want to stick around. For Spread, I'm Kush. Let's go nuke the house.